It is 8:56. You're with us here on OTB AM. It's brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Joe Conroy on the line. Joe, how are you getting on?
Morning, Al. Morning, Johnny. All good?
You are waltzing into our life with the beauty that is McCarthy's Park. I haven't seen this thing in a few years. Have you seen this, Johnny?
I haven't.
You haven't. You're missing out. Tell him why he's missing out, Joseph.
You're in for a treat, Johnny. We're kind of completing the transition this morning from sort of high-level elite European football to speculation about the next Hibs job to McCarthy's Park, the park that McCarthy built back in 1999. Basically what we're looking at here, Johnny, is a nice tight 1 hour available on YouTube. Nick McCarthy's first Irish campaign, our failed attempts to get to France 98. If that doesn't whet the appetite, I don't know what will. But here's just kind of a taste of the type of fare on offer. Just a bit of context for a quick clip here. Ireland have kind of had a bit of a yo-yo, kind of typical, a lot of peaks and troughs in this campaign. We eventually get to this crucial Iceland-Lithuania 6-point swing. Ireland go, get to 6 points. And this is from the documentary, just the scenes on the pitch after the Lithuania crucial away win.
Archie, we boy! Have some of that. We've done it. 6 points. What do you call him? Is it Beglin? What was it? Is it Beglin and Giles? Yeah. Have some of that. 6 points on the road. Oh, yes!
Well, what's he saying?
Yeah.
What's he saying there again? Is it someone in Giles? Like he's asking immediately in the aftermath. Beglin and Giles, sorry, yes, who's in studio. They'd obviously been throwing him under the bus quite a bit in the build up to that game.
Yeah, well, there's kind of a theme throughout this documentary. It's kind of at war with the media. There's kind of a war for the soul of the future of Irish football. It's actually amazing watching it, kind of given all the chats we've been having and sort of especially kind of being plugged into the Republic of Ireland news cycle for the last 2 odd years, where ironically Mick's come back into the frame. But it's just incredible. The kind of, if you want to put in a bit of context, we're talking about kind of 96 to 99, which is sort of the same period of time that Father Ted was airing. So that's kind of the Ireland we're living in here. Also, we're kind of got the last embers of the Jack Charlton era and kind of the 2002 crop starting to come in. So you're blooding players like Kenny and Kilban who are going to come into things. You've got Shay Given comes in through the campaign. You've also got a man who I'm not sure we speak about enough. We've got a young Roy Keane as well. I got one more clip just on the kind of theme of kind of sort of a bit of background on that kind of outpouring of relief you see on the pitch there. This is previously at the start of the campaign. Crucial home tie against Iceland in Lansdowne Road. Doesn't go well. Ends in a bit of a farcical 0-0 draw. This is before Iceland became kind of a European footballing utopian powerhouse. We've got a certain Roy Keane coming back into the Irish setup. Just before this, he had showed up or been available for 4 out of the previous 20 or 22 games. And he came back into Dublin, and it's fair to say there was an air of controversy hanging around his return to Mick McCarthy's Ireland team.
Roy Keane returns to the Irish squad for the home game with Iceland. Keane's commitment to the cause has been questioned. One newspaper has called for him to be booed at Lansdowne Road.
There was a couple of articles that actually encouraged fans to come along and vent their anger or show what they actually feel for Roy. Now, whatever they feel for him, what I would say is something that's bigger than that is the rest of us in here. That's the important thing. The team and the team doing well. And from the start of the game when they booed Roy, the atmosphere was very, very poor. I don't think we enjoyed the support on the day that we've enjoyed in the past. At one incident there was a bit of a cheer and it was almost like they'd let the supporters in. I guess one or two supporters could say if we had a shot on goal it was almost like they'd let a team in.
It's going to be a good documentary. Isn't it mad, like, just at the start there, that they're so worried about the media? And it was the same with Jack Charlton and Dunphy throwing the pen and all that. Like, you see, you've Dunphy, Brady and Giles, who effectively, like, you know, two of the best footballers that ever played for Ireland. Dunphy, who's like a very, you know, intelligent analyst, like, but these guys didn't make it as coaches, and the nation was hanging its hat on what they said. Like, as opposed to watch the game and make your own mind up. And even Mick coming off the pitch after a big win is worried about the media.
Do you not
That's
think,
Ireland, like.
Yeah, well, I was just about to say, it very much feels like a point that is still relevant. And
well, look at the Sunday game, for example. The Sunday game will show 2 minutes of Gaelic football and 27 minutes of analysis by 3. Like, how about, like, show me the game and let me make my own mind up? But we love the pantomime of it. And we love, like, the.
It's not just an Irish thing, though. Really, I mean, we just been speaking about Sky Sports, and they're not that it's a pantomime. I think people will hang on every word that are people that are in studio. But when you talk about the importance of the voices that would have been critical of the Irish team, I think that you could point towards recent managements and say the exact same thing. I'm not sure, did Stephen Kenny and Keith Andrews read everything about them, or did they care? But certainly Roy Keane cared about what Keith Andrews was saying about him quite famously, and would have called him one of the biggest spoofers ever as a result of possibly his analysis during his tenure.
There's like, it is, though, it's true. Kind of, you can see it does seem to kind of hit home. Like, there's a kind of bit at the end where it's sort of like this kind of pointed, candidly talking to Mick, kind of towards the end of the campaign, and he said he was at a function, and Johnny Jaws was there, and he does a kind of, and I saw him, I went over to him, and I think Johnny was getting some awards, like, and I shook his hand and I said, "Well done, John." And I know he's got a job to do. I've got a job to do. But just going back to that clip there, so you've got Keane coming back, getting booed by Irish fans. He goes on to kind of begrudgingly, almost like passive-aggressively, have an absolute stormer, win man the match in our disastrous 0-0 home draw against Minnows, Iceland. Mick gets into it with some journalists at the press conference, comes back to the changing room. John Aldridge has been an unused sub. I think he's 38 at the time. Mick comes back after his tetuous media engagements. Aldo comes over and says, "Look, Mick, I'm done. This is a joke. Good luck to you." I don't know if he actually said this is a joke, but he says, "Look, I'm not coming over. I should have been used there when we're chasing the game. Good luck to you." Could you imagine the OTB AM the morning after? Roy Keane's been booed by Irish fans, one man the match. There's been a fractious press conference, and all those walked away. Like, it's just great stuff. It's kind of stuff that you kind of forget about, and it's kind of, obviously we know Mick now as kind of the established guy and the guy who maybe like was there before the Kenny revolution came in, but he's kind of in a similar situation at the time where obviously the disastrous and iconic loss to Macedonia as part of this campaign as well. And after that, it really kicks off from a Mick perspective. There's senior players who come to him. They have a bit of a, we've kind of been thinking about things, and, Jack used to do this, Jack used to do that. And Mick says, "Yeah, I know, I was there. He kind of says himself, he would have been one of Jack's kind of main foot soldiers and sort of one of his main backers." And he goes, "Yeah, well, it's like, look, lads, Jack's gone. We're doing it my way now." But it's interesting. It is mad though, even just kind of culturally, just even all these trips, like going off to Iceland, going off to Lithuania, going off to Romania. It all just looks so different. Like, it's kind of back then when sort of you are property sort of in that transitional period after there's been a lot of change in a lot of those countries. You've got this one amazing scene where they eventually get the Belgium playoff. They play Belgium in Lansdowne, draw 1-1. It's kind of a bit of a disappointing result because they've given Belgium the away goal. And there's this bit where it's Mick and the team, they're in a kind of it looks like a hotel room or a kind of hotel conference room. I would say the team means coaching staff, and they're kind of going through, they're looking at the Belgian goal, and it's like, "Oh, Shay can't do anything about that, but could Hardy have been on him? Yeah. Oh." Then they're kind of going through and like, "Oh yeah, it's really important now. People don't realise you really have to watch the game. Like, you can't take it all in on the sideline." And the camera just zooms out, and they're sitting there with little like tulip glasses of beer and peanuts in front of them. So it kind of gives you an idea to sort of like a window into another time, and just sort of a reminder of how much has changed so quickly.
Yeah. Were you going to games around this time?
I went to the odd game. Yeah, I remember going to the Iran game, the first leg of the playoff. I remember an Iranian guy asked me outside, "Are you going to Tehran?" and just the notion of that. But like, we didn't. Like the hysteria around the Jack Charlton era, like I was a kid growing up in that, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. But like in terms of how we coach kids and how we developed as a football nation, like we didn't kick on at all. Like we've had like the Jack Charlton era into like all these years of Ireland being basically a big underachiever, exporting all our players, not having a proper national league, not having technical players of quality, such that now you've Stephen Kenny taking over, who's like, we have to break from this. Like we have to break from the stereotype of us being this typical British nation that doesn't play good football. And you know, Mick inherited obviously from like the Jack Charlton era was legendary, but we didn't coach our players properly from there on, and we have a situation now where we're basically trying to reimagine what we are as a football nation.
Do you remember the night Keane gets booed?
I do, yeah. It kind of brings it back. Like, I think it's going to be a brilliant documentary. I mean, a lot of people listening this morning will have been like, you know, probably kids.
It's out. I mean, it's on. It's been out for years. The doc. Yeah, we're just talking about it because.
Oh, okay.
Why not?
Well, then obviously there's a lot of documentaries on YouTube. But like a lot of us would have been teenagers around that time, and the Keane thing. I mean, how could you even make it up? Like, you know, of all the problems in the world, a fella leaving a squad like about a football game, and everyone was talking about it. And if you ever got a poll on a national issue that was 50-50, that was it.
Yeah,
amazing times.
Well, it seems that it might have been mostly against Roy Keane for the Iceland situation, whereas obviously a few years later that would have the balance might have tipped back more towards 50-50. It's out in 98, if I'm not mistaken, Joe, is it this documentary?
Yeah, it came out in 99, so it would have been kind of the time, kind of, I think it might have been kind of around the Christmassy type, looking back at us not qualifying for that brilliant World Cup. Watching it as well is kind of, there are just all these little amazing nuggets, but it does make me wonder, you know, what content have we been robbed of over the years? You know, where's Staunton's park? Where's Trapattoni's park? Where's O'Neill's park? Where's Mick's second park? Where's Kenny's park? But
we've got voice notes on WhatsApp now.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird, like with documentaries, because everything's on. You know, you can basically get everything online now. But like, you see the Navalny documentary the other night, and you're like, holy crap, the power of a good documentary that can completely change your day when you watch something like that. But obviously it's nothing compared to this.
Yeah.
You know?
This is far more important journalism. There's also probably the sense that maybe if Mick McCarthy watched this back, he'd be like, how did this stuff make the cut? Whereas, to kind of counter your point there, I wonder if, you know, we're going to get to a stage where there's going to be so many Netflix versions of behind the scenes in sport that actually there's a level of control about that as well. Yeah, well,
I was only thinking of this, and Joe is probably too young for this, but like the documentary around Galway's 1998 All Ireland win, done by
Sunday.
Comer, who's basically one of the, I think he was like maybe second or third choice keeper, but like behind McNamara. Absolutely amazing. Like, and I was a kid in 98 going to the games, and like the way that took over Galway as a county, like I'll never ever experience anything like that. But that documentary was insanely good, like, and it was so ahead of its time. And you can imagine John O'Mahony, who's like coming in, he's brought Leitrim to win a Connacht title and whatever, he wants to do what he wants to do with Mayo, but he takes over Galway. And you can imagine in 1998, like Comer saying, I wouldn't mind filming some of this, would that be okay? And saying, yeah, sure, that'll be grand. And it's one of like the best things you'll ever watch, even as a Galway person.
What else from McCarthy's Park caught the eye? What is it, 24 years later?
Is this out, by the way?
Yeah.
It's going to be out soon, Joe.
It is, yeah. Keep an eye out. It's dropping any day now. Just a couple of things, like on that kind of how much filtered or unfiltered is it? Like they couldn't get into the dressing room, or they're not in the dressing room, but there is a bit where Mick gives them a tour of the absolutely horrible old Lansdowne Road dressing rooms, which are like, it's amazing how bad they are, but it's where it's again, these are all these little things that will be kind of lost on time if they weren't up there in this random YouTube documentary. There's another thing as well, one of the big kind of, as part of that kind of rebirth narrative, McGrath had been frozen out of the setup. It's kind of interesting because you can tell it's kind of dealt with in a way that Mick kind of addresses it, but addresses it quite guardedly, where looking back now, if you read the book that McGrath did with Vincent Hogan, I don't remember the specifics, but I remember that was kind of a particularly kind of chaotic period that would have coincided with this documentary. So it's interesting. You can see those limitations, but I just got one last tip from it. Like, we're a bit kind of cursed that anything that's filmed with like a single camera and a person narrating to you about their job feels a little bit opposite. Like, it's not opposite to the point that actually Mick comes out of it very well. Very kind of, no matter how dark it gets, he kind of has this wry kind of gallows humour. But here's just a taste, kind of give you an idea of that theme of transition I've been speaking about. He's on the motorway checking out a hot prospect who's going to make a future impact on Irish football.
This motorway gets well used anyway. I'm not so bad actually, because I've got, within London, there's a lot of clubs I can watch all the players at. They all come to London at some stage. I do get around the country. I do quite a bit of miles.
A 240-mile round trip takes McCarthy to the Hawthorns in West Bromwich, Birmingham. A young player, Kevin Kilbane, makes the long journey worthwhile.
I get asked constantly about them. And I guess they've all got to keep playing well for the clubs. The lads who've done it for me here are tried and tested and done it. Now, if I get injuries somewhere along the way, people will be brought in. So if we do have injuries, please God that we're in France, I'll be looking at them all. Anybody who's performing well for the club and think they could handle it.
Isn't it beautiful, like, as we get older, that Steve McLaren isn't that image, and who's recently been linked with potentially getting back involved in the Man United setup. You know, Mick is still managing, and Joe, that is obviously, like, that brings me to that, like, was the last series The Office where he's doing his tour and there's
Christmas party episode.
Was the Christmas? Yeah, where, like, there's that footage of him basically eating in some lay-by, like, late at night, and it is the most quintessential life on the road crap, like, and how grim it is. And there was Mick going to the Midlands.
I don't think David Brent ever had a get up like that. He looked like Sean Connery's James Bond in the white suit.
Oh,
like,
it's amazing. Like, someone's left in just before the ads, the little insets, and it's sponsored by Pennies. And I think the FAI had some sort of commercial deal with Pennies at the time.
They did. I remember that now, yeah.
You get a few shots of, like, Mick in this. It's like everything is kind of on the road, but then there's one bit that's kind of like more of a stylized. It's obviously would do the big interview with Mick for the documentary, and he's there in his, like, denim shirt with his matching denim jeans and his kind of what you'd probably call like a sports jacket, looking the part. But
Steve McLaren was in that shot as well, just in front of Mick McCarthy at the Hawthorns. Like, is he at Manchester United at this point? Is he scouting somebody for Manchester? Is he scouting Kevin Kilbane for Manchester United potentially?
Well,
Kevin Kilbane, sorry.
Kilbane.
Yeah, the Kilbane of our life.
Sorry, we didn't even know Kilbane was Kilbane yet.
This is the qualification campaign for 2000 or 98?
98, which is also
probably a bit before he goes to United.
I think that gives it a bit of it kind of gives an extra angle to documentary for me, because if you think of what could have been, like, we controversially lose that Belgian playoff, and I've left out the Belgian stuff, and I've left out some great stuff like them chatting to Mick's dad and his wife, just because if you actually do bother to go and read this out, think of how good these little nuggets we have. There's even better stuff in it. So that's kind of my pitch to it. But yeah, imagine if Ireland had been at France 98. It's a bit of a sliding doors moment as well. We kind of there's a controversial throw-in that leads to the goal against Belgium that gets us knocked out. So you get kind of great footage of the heartbreak after that, and kind of Mick channeling through this sort of defiant, kind of proud of the players. Then he starts getting emotional. Then he gets angry. Then he's talking about how he knows that, especially you've got more of the young guys coming through by that point at the end of the campaign. He kind of speaks about getting to the dressing room first, but then kind of having this moment where he kind of goes, right, you need to pull yourself together and kind of be the leader here. But yeah, it's a great little artifact floating out there on the interwebs for your perusal. It's
one of the most heartbreaking feelings to consider all the tournaments and all the memories that would have happened had Ireland been there. Like, I mean, we saw the Irish fans in France in 2016. Imagine what France 98 would have been like with the Irish fans there. I think Netherlands, Mexico, South Korea was Belgium's group in that as well. You might have given Ireland a bit of a chance of sneaking out of it or causing a bit of an upset. Just one last thing, Joe, before we let you go. Obviously, we saw those West Brom kits there, absolutely gorgeous. Your favourite Ireland jersey from around that era as OTB's resident style expert?
It's got to be the orange Macedonian number. Like, all kind of, and like we wrote a piece on the side about this a couple of years ago, and it's kind of actually later on I found these old letters to the Irish Times kind of giving out about that jersey. So we're talking about 96 there, so kind of 2 years before the Good Friday Agreement, where like things were obviously a lot more probably politically charged than they are now. But So the orange jersey, between the result and everything else, kind of got shelved. But it's good to see it back now. Hopefully it'll be staying in the rotation. But yeah, as a sidebar, just all the gear, all the training gear, every sweatshirt Mick has, this is like prime 90s Umbro when they would have been kind of Ireland, England, United, Celtic, and just everything. It's all the stuff that's kind of coming back now. It's like, if you're on kind of Style Watch, this is again another beautiful little nugget to check out.
Doc Martens as well. They were the thing when I was like, I remember when I was in national school, Doc Martens were the thing, and here we are like 25 years later, and they are again.
Are they back?
They are, yeah. Oh, Doc Martens, absolutely, yeah. Have you not been around?
I haven't a clue. Just talk to me about clothes and you lose me straight away, unfortunately. I wish. I need a pennies agreement like McCarthy and get a white suit or something.
That will be sorted by 9:30.
Joe, good stuff. Thanks a million.
Cheers.
It's McCarthy's Park. You can get it online if you want to watch it. If you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, it's absolutely worth rewatching. I think I might go rewatch it.
Did you watch the Navalny documentary?
No, but I've heard absolutely exceptional things.
Man, like, I mean, yeah, like the power of a documentary to, and like I didn't know this was actually out for 25 years or so now, but yeah, even. Yeah, it just gets you, and like I think Mick has a great humility about him as well. Like he's been managing for basically since then up till now, with like a 6-month break maybe in between at most. And even we had Jack Byrne on and we met him afterwards, and he was like nothing but good things to say about him. I think you survive as a coach because players like have a good time for you as well. They respect you, and like, coaching may change and football may change, but humility goes a long way, I think.
For sure.